Hello and welcome everybody. This live stream is a collaborative effort of Aramba and Segal Radio. I'm Mo Thakurta, owner of Aramba. We create videos and live streams for small businesses and medium-sized businesses and nonprofits. We enjoy telling engaging stories. So if you have a great story to tell, contact us on our social media pages. Check out the links below. In the studio, we have a director from Segal Radio, Justine Okello. Segal Radio Services is based out of Clarkston. Justin, tell us a little bit about Segal Radio.
Yes, thank you very much, Moha. I'm always delighted to be here in this our live stream of Your Voice Matters. So a little bit about Segal Radio. Segal Radio is located in the heart of Clarkston, here in Georgia. The most diverse square mile in the nation. It was founded in 1998 by refugees. To give a voice to newly arriving refugees and other immigrants. The mission of Segal Radio is to enrich the community through innovative programming and, by sharing diverse voices that educate, engage, and empower the community. So we have programs in Amharic, Arabic, Bhutanese, Somali, and Swahili, and of course, that list keeps growing as we have people coming into the community of Clarkston. The programming also kind of revolves around, education-based programming, community announcements, international and local news. We have music and from immigrants and refugees around, live streams, and then also communication around emergency announcements. Right now, we're really focusing a lot on voting. Which is not an emergency, but it can be, and the most emergency things that we're talking about is COVID-19. So COVID-19 has kind of caused a lot of ravage in communities. So we're really focusing on that to help people really know about what they need to do to be safe. So yeah, I'm really happy to be here. Of course, people know me as an advocate for the community. I work at New American Pathways. Segal Radio is another branch of me being very involved in the community. I've taken it on to volunteer my time to help Segal Radio serve the community. So I'm really happy to be here to do this today with Sushma, my good friend.
Yeah, so Shushma is our guest today, but before I get to her, I want to talk about how Clarkston is making a difference. Justin, thank you for all your services and what you do in Clarkston. And if you have not visited Clarkston, I really urge you to go and visit Clarkston. It's an amazing community. You are missing out if you haven't visited Clarkston. You are going to get to eat some great food. Who can resist that? And from all over the world, and hear some great music and lots of different languages. So please definitely visit Clarkston, Georgia. It's in other side of Decatur. It's not that far away. So on today's live stream, Your Voice Matters, we will dive deeper with why new Americans need to exercise their vote, their right to vote. Justin and I will be co-hosting the show. So we have a very special friend and somebody who does some amazing work. You got to know her. So she is Shushma Barakoti, owner of Sunav World and director of Refugee Women's Network.
Yes, and I get to introduce Shushma. Thank you for being here with us today. So Shushma Barakoti is the executive director of Refugee Women's Network, an Atlanta-based nonprofit serving refugees resettled in the state of Georgia. The Refugee Women's Network inspires and equips refugee and immigrant women to become leaders in their homes, businesses, and communities. Shushma has been a catalyst in advancing women's empowerment in the United States and also from her native country, Nepal, for more than 2 decades now. Shushma founded Snavel, a company that it's a small business committed to providing socio-economic empowerment to hundreds of women in Nepal and here in Atlanta. And now through her social business, Shushma is promoting the tradition of arts, crafts, and women artisans in Nepal. As a Clarkston Program Coordinator, Sushma mentors and assists new entrepreneurs, gain insight into starting and sustaining and growing the small businesses through the Emory University's Start Me Accelerator program. She serves she served as the president of Nepali Women's Global Network here in Northern America from 2008 to 2010. She currently sits on the board of the Asian Pacific American Council of Georgia, and also APAC's former general secretary. She's on the advisory board, and also the advisory board of Nepalese Association of Southeast America. Sushma loves gardening in her free time, and exploring the great outdoors with her husband and two daughters. So welcome, Sushma. We're happy to have you here today.
Oh my God,
Thank
Sushma.
you.
That's amazing amount of work. I don't know how you find the time to do all of that. And I think our
That's
viewers are going
amazing.
to go dizzy listening to everything that you've achieved and accomplished. But I'm so proud of you. Thank you for
Thank
being here
you.
with us.
I have lived half a century, almost half a century in this world. So
That's
thank you
beautiful.
so much, Mo and Justin, for doing this wonderful, wonderful, such an important, timely, event that you're doing through this Your Voice Matter series. I am delighted to be here today.
So, Shushma, thank you again. But before, and I want to start with our questions, which is, tell us a little bit about where you're from and a little bit about your country.
Sure, I am originally from Nepal. I came here to do my master's in social work. So I lived in Pennsylvania, Scranton, Pennsylvania, for 12 years, working. After my graduation, I worked in domestic violence and sexual abuse work with gender-based violence, and then moved to Atlanta. For last 8 years, I have been volunteering, and now for last 3 years, working at the Refugee Women's Network.
That's amazing. So I know you have done a lot of work with Refugee Women's Network, and I really want our viewers to know what Refugee Women's Network do. But before we get there, I want to know how you got involved with Refugee Women's Network.
So when I moved to Atlanta, I had even before I moved to Atlanta, I was introduced to Bhutanese refugee community that was settled in Scranton. So when they came there, I was quite surprised because Scranton was like 98% white at that time, and then they decided to bring resettle refugees there, and especially the Bhutanese refugees because and I am from Nepal, so Bhutanese refugees are of Nepali origin. So they are Nepali people of Nepali origin in living in Bhutan, citizens of Bhutan. So when Bhutan they became refugees, they were expelled out of Bhutan. They came to Nepal and lived there in refugee camps for a long time. So we share Nepalese people. We share our language and culture with the Bhutanese of Nepali origin. So when they came to Scranton, it was very easy for me to communicate, and they were delighted that I was living there for a long time. So that's how I got introduced to the refugee community. And so when I came to Atlanta, I seeked for, and I knew Atlanta had a huge refugee population already. So my sister, who was living in Atlanta, she introduced me to a few organizations in Clarkston. And so I started volunteering there. And when I was setting up my business, Suna World, I worked with a few of the Bhutanese refugee women in Clarkston to help me make some products of Nepali traditional designs. So that's how I got really involved with the refugee communities in Clarkston and around Clarkston. And that's how when I got the opportunity to work with the Refugee Women's Network, there was no looking back because that those were my passion, working with the refugee population as well as women's empowerment. I have worked all my life with nonprofit with gender equity, so that was a no-brainer for me, and I'm really really glad that I got to work in this organization.
Yes, that's amazing, and it seems like at Refugee Women's Network, you're just like having this safe space for women, and just following the work that you do there. It's just an amazing space, and a lot of our listeners out there, who don't know where Refugee Women's Network is, please check it out. It's an amazing organization. I've known Sushma for quite a bit, and I can attest to that. You do such an amazing work, so thank you for sharing that background. um, I wanted to move on to the next question, just to kind of dig deep into just like your background and what you've been doing. Tell us a little bit about specifically the Refugee Women's Network, and how you're helping refugees in Clarkston.
So you mentioned a really important thing there, Justine, the safe place. Refugee Women's Network is an organization created by women for women to provide a safe space, network to support through partnership and mentorship, and to get them access to resources. As you mentioned, you work for resettlement. You are very familiar with the resettlement of refugees in United States. So when they come in, the resettlement agencies work with the family to establish them, right? Getting an apartment, getting a first job for one person in the family, and most of the time the family that they help getting that job is the head of the household, and it's mostly men. And women are always they have to step back, um, take care of the family, which is very understandable in a new country. Not knowing the language even adds a complexity to that whole matter. And so sometimes they can be left behind. So Women's Resource Center, we try to give them that space where the women can come wherever they are in their journey of resettling in the United States, and we help them. If they want to get a job, we help them find job for them. If they want to establish their own business, we have an entrepreneurship development program for refugee and immigrant women called Chef's Club, which is like really growing its momentum. We do online. Now we've pivoted to online every month cooking class where we learn about the food, the culture, um, and so that's the platform for the general population to learn about the culture and food of the different communities that we serve, as well as create a customer base for them when they want to establish their own business. So that's our Women's Economic Empowerment Program. We have Health Promoters Program, which is building leadership in health, promotion, and also civic engagement is a huge part of what Refugee Women's Network does in the community.
Thank you. That's like it just kind of like I think about all the the different diverse cuisines, and I
Yes.
know our listeners out there would love to know, when this online kind of like cooking class happens. So please, I would just like urge our listeners, just go into Refugee Women's Network. If you love trying out like different cuisines, please check it out. So yeah, thank you very much, Shushma, for that elaborate, kind of like expansion of what you do at Refugee Women's Network.
So, Shushma, I have attended one of those classes, and trust me, guys, it's really good food. We learned about Egyptian food,
Yes.
and we cooked like two different things. It was just
Yes.
amazing. Yeah, it was very, very good. So, I would definitely ask everybody to attend those classes. And this is a great way to give empowerment to the refugee women who
Hmm.
have been CEOs or very well established leaders in the community. So I think that's a really great program that RWN is doing.
Yeah,
So
you can sign up for our newsletter, and then so we will send you information when that happens. The next one is coming up shortly in few weeks, and we
Yeah,
are
I
doing
would.
Persian cooking.
oh,
Persian. Oh wow, I would love to be a part of that because I just love trying out different foods, and I'm definitely going to check it out on your website and sign up for that.
Sure.
Yeah, Sushma, I wanted to, kind of move on to the very next important question. Um, you work with a lot of new Americans, and why do you think, like they need to go out and vote?
That's a really good question, Justin. When you say new Americans, right? We work with refugees and immigrants, and especially refugees and asylees. When they come to this country, they are fleeing from a situation where they are not going to go back to their own country. So when they arrive here, they are here for good. This is their home now, right? There was this small anecdote. I was talking to this Bhutanese man. He was in his mid 30s, and he said, "This feels so good to be in this country." He was not even a citizen at that time. He said, "This feels so good. For the first time in my life, I feel settled. Now I can be a citizen of some country." He said, "I have never called myself a citizen of any country till now." Like that gave me, I became so emotional because I had my country when I came here, because I came here as an immigrant, right? He came here as a refugee, and he was thrown from his country that he thought he belonged, and he was in a second country, in a refugee camp where he could not be a citizen. And coming to US was the first time he felt like safe, and then he thought he belonged somewhere. So this is such a big thing, and then you cannot take this for granted, right? You are here now, you're going to live here as a citizen, you're going to be affected by all the policies and law of this country. Your children are going to be raised here. uh, each and every decision that the local leaders, state level leaders, and the national leaders make is going to have a direct, effect in your family. The leaders that directly from in not only your family, your community, the environment, and the world that we live in, right? We immigrants and refugees are more aware of like what goes on in the countries back home as well. So we tend to think globally, and the since America is one of the powerful country in the world, to be involved in the process is very important because we can make a difference not only in our neighborhood, our country, but around the world. That it has a huge effect in the world.
Thank you
So we
so much.
need to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such an you bring up such an important point, that sense of belonging. That's a basic human right. We should
Yes.
have a sense of belonging. We should feel safe wherever we are. And this has been taken away from a lot of the refugee friends who have come to this country, and they feel for the first time they feel safe when they come here. So yes, they need to go out and vote and be a part of the system. But that leads me to the next question, which is, what are some of the challenges do you think these women face, the people that you serve, when they are trying to vote, and how can they be more prepared to vote?
Right. And it's not just the women, right? Because when you come in this country, you struggle a lot to be established. And by the time you are established, you become a citizen, still you are trying to get ahead in your life, getting to the job that you really want to do, not anything that you got to do, right? Getting your children to a good school or to where you really want them to be. So sometimes what we have found is voting gets back on their burner. So it is very important for us to remind them it is their right to vote, and it is and it makes a difference. So the challenges which we are tackling are reaching out to them and explaining to them. So the other thing is access to information. When you are living your life in your own community, sometimes there is it's hard to know how to go about things. where to vote, how to register, do you really need to vote register? So all those things, access to information, are barriers, and the other barriers are language, of course, and also sometimes transportation.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much for sharing this, Shushma. But before Justin, I want to share this, Shushma, that this is so. Look at the comments that we are getting. Excellent, Shushma Barakoti. You are an inspiration to all immigrant women, and I stand by it. I totally
That's
agree.
my friend from North Carolina.
There you go. So everybody supports you. But yes, Justin, go ahead for the next question.
yeah. When Sushma was kind of like laying that out, like it just like touched my heart. To just kind of hear the message that you have for listeners out there, and just like every immigrant, all the refugees, it seems like everything that affects people's lives is really dependent on the decisions that we make, and of course like deciding to prepare yourself and go out and vote, to exercise your voice. That really takes courage, and also knowing that you have the right to do that. When you were talking about like feeling safe in this country, my mind was just kind of going back thinking about all the people that are fleeing countries of persecution, not being allowed to actually exercise their right to vote, and coming into the United States and feeling safe, and being able to know that, okay, I can call this home. That sense of belonging is what we're talking about here. So kind of like coming kind of going off of that, um, sense of belonging, like you have what it takes to actually contribute immensely to that community that you live in, and having the civic right, civic duty to actually exercise those rights. So my next question kind of goes hand in hand with that, like for people who are actually now legally acceptable to vote, and you've gone out and vote, you're allowed to go vote. Does it really does their voice really matter? There's that question where people ask themselves, like, does our voice really matter? If we go out and vote, does it really matter? Does it hold weight? So I want you to kind of like, explain that a little bit, and let our listeners out there really know the difference, like our voice really matters, and does it really make a difference?
Yes, so it really does matter, because now you are here, and sometimes, like you said, they have some kind of reservation, like because of their past experience they have a reservation. But this is United States. you know it is our civic duty to vote, and let our voices be heard. So do not even hesitate 1 second that your voice does not matter. So this is a critical time in 2020 is a critical year, where we have census, and when we have registra the general election. So we have to make plans to go to vote.
Thank you very much. I think that's a very affirmative conclusion about, like, our voice really matters, and you have to make a plan to go and vote. I like that. I
Yes.
like that. So thank you very much, Sushma.
So,
Um,
Shilpa, before we go, I want to show people, viewers, what you showed us, and you say how you prepare for
Right.
voting. So
Yes.
if you can watch
So
that a little bit and tell us a little bit about that, that would be awesome. Yeah.
yes, you have to be really intentional about voting, and especially this year, because under COVID, it is, there's a lot of chatter going on whether it's safe to go to the poll and vote or not. Are the absentee ballots that you're going to send are going to be counted? Yes and yes, but you have to make your own decision. So, two things. One thing, number one, you have to register to vote. That's number one. And the registration deadline is October 5th in state of Georgia. So if you haven't registered, or if you think you've registered but you are not sure, please go to the link that is right on your screen and check. If you have moved uh, from last time you voted, you have to re-register. If you haven't voted in few of the earlier election, then your voters registration might be inactive. So you still have to re-register. So please do that on that link below. And also you can go to Secretary of State website and check there as well. So decide how you're going to vote. If you're going to vote in person, if you decide, okay, I'm going to go vote in person, then have your PPE ready and pick a date, pick few dates. And November 3rd is the election day, and make that date your last option. Okay, so in state of Georgia, the early voting is starting on October 10th. It's going to go from October 10th to October 30th. But if you wake up in the morning, October 31st or November 1st, and want to go to vote early, you can't. So that's why pick few dates between that time and go early and vote. Okay, so if you don't feel comfortable going to the polling booth and voting, then you're going to do absentee vote. So to vote absentee ballot, you have to request the absentee ballot. So to request the absentee ballot, you can go to the Secretary of State website and fill out the absentee ballot request form. It's a one-page form where you have to sign, and you can scan and also send by email to them, and they will send you an absentee ballot. But if you don't want to do email, you can even mail them, and then they will send you an absentee ballot. So, but the request to send the absentee ballot is now. They are accepting that request. Do it today if you want to, vote by absentee ballot. So let's say you send out your absentee ballot request form, and then you will get an absentee ballot in your mail. So it will look like this. A big envelope, official absentee ballot, and inside that envelope there are few things. It's a little confusing, but put aside 30 minutes at least, or 45 minutes, to work on your absentee ballot. So there is an instruction letter page. There is this huge long absentee ballot with all the candidates, front and back. And there is this very important envelope. This is an envelope where it says official absentee ballot. Ballot must be enclosed in here. So once you fill out the ballot, you are going to, so even by filling out the absentee ballot, some of the candidates that are listed, like the presidential candidate, vice presidential candidate, and some of the some of the senators and House of Representatives, you might know what they stand for. You have to be really, really intentional who you vote. And if you don't know what these candidates stand for, what are their issues, you can really Google and find them on their website, and learn about the issues that matters to you, and then vote. So you can even take a small note, handwritten note, like who you are going to vote after you do your research, and then take it to the poll. So this one goes in this ballot envelope. So if you lose this envelope, and if you just decide to put the ballot in one of these return envelope with this yellow thing, your vote will be disqualified. So you have to put that in this envelope, seal it. You have to seal it close, and then put it in this envelope. the return envelope that they have sent, seal it, and then you have to sign this envelope too. So you have to do all this process. So take your time, because if you miss any of these steps, then your ballot can be disqualified. So now you're all ready to do it. So even to drop this envelope, you have two choices. One, you can mail it through USPS. And if you want to mail it through USPS, you have to put a stamp here. And please, if you don't have stamp in your house, buy stamp ahead of time so that it's not at the last moment. And also, you can drop this off at different locations. There are ballot drop-off boxes around the city, around town. You can find out about them. Google them. I'm sure it will be there. There was an article on HAC about with the 10 different locations for DeKalb County. I'm sure it is there for other counties as well. So my request is, please, please, please make your plan and think ahead of time how you're going to do it. Do not leave it for November 3rd, because it could be really long line. The machines can go broke, the machine can break. So you might, be standing there. The weather might be bad. So ahead of time, have your vote in, and you'll be glad you did.
That is such a very detailed, just kind of breakdown of things to pay attention to. And I think, like one of the things that kind of like stood out to me is like, the preparation part of it. You gotta spend some time to prepare. Do your homework as well. Because a lot of times, like we have this like rush of like, okay, I need to just go and choose whoever I want to choose. You pointed out something really important. Do your research. A lot of times, like people come out, you can see running mates who are like, you don't know what they do, what their values are, and you mentioned, what do they stand for? Are they really gonna create the kind of social change and in your community that you're looking for?
Yes.
So I think that is a very important aspect of doing your research, and then preparation. So preparation is something that we cannot just take for granted. You got to prepare for everything. And now that more than ever, the elections, you got to prepare for this election. So know who do your research and know all these little steps. Something that I wanted to ask you, Sushma, is, you did talk about all these like preparation aspects of it. And, like the aspect of checking your precinct. You did talk a little bit about that, but like, could you like expand a little bit on like, why is it important for you to make sure that you check your precinct where you're going to be voting on the day of?
Right. That's a very important thing, Justin, because sometimes, you might be driving around and during the early voting, you might see a library on your way or a school on your way that vote here. So those are the early voting poll stations, right? But sometimes the early voting place, your early voting place might not be the same as your voting place on the day of the election. I believe there are more early voting place than the real voting day uh, places. So even for me, my early voting place is a library closer to my house, and on the real voting day, I have to go to another church to vote on the real voting day. So it's absolutely important to know where your voting place is, be ahead of time, so that you don't have to end up filing for another ballot that you can't you know submit that moment. So or you have to be rerouted to your voting place, and then you don't want to miss the time bouncing from one place to the other on the day off. So it is very important to find out where your voting place is. There is on on the Secretary of State website. When you go, you can punch your zip code, and you can find out where you're voting with your address and zip code. They will give you your voting precinct.
Thank you very much. I think that is, that is very clear, and hopefully our listeners out there have got this. Sushma, you are very inspirational. Thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for stressing all those key points in this time of ours. Like like we say, we are in this really crucial moment of really figuring out how we can prepare and go out and vote. So don't take any chances, people. Prepare and take this as seriously as you can, as your
Yes.
life depends on it. So
Yes.
thank you so much, Sushma. I know you have a lot of information on your website. I would urge our listeners out there to check out the Refugee Women's Network, and the work that you all do is such an amazing work. Volunteer. I know you do need volunteers at Refugee Women
Yes.
Network. I believe so. So I know a lot of people out there would love to know more about how they can get involved. Check out their website, check out the Refugee Women's Network, and get involved. So I just want to kind of pass it on to more. But I want to thank you so much. This was very, very, very insightful and educative for our people out there. And we hope to really get the voice out. And that's what we're trying to do. Let your
Yep.
voice does matter. Get out and vote.
Yes, I agree with Justin and Sushma. You have covered all the points that we definitely wanted to cover, but we
Yes,
haven't covered Sushma enough because Sushma is the person we
that's
have not
right.
talked about Start Me. So, if you really quickly want to talk a little bit about how a refugee women can actually, work with Start Me or learn from Start Me. If you wrap up with those thoughts, that will be great. And again, thank you so much for being with us. So let's hear about Start Me
Absolutely.
a little
Start
bit
Me
from
is
you.
an amazing program. It's a business accelerator program, organized by Emory. And then they have three programs in the three different cities, like Clarkston, Southside in Atlanta, and also East Lake. So it has a great, it provides knowledge, network, um, and also capital. So it is for small businesses who are who have less than 50,000 in working capital and are really wanting to move forward, and especially in Clarkston and our the families that we work with, they are entrepreneurs in heart, so it's important for them to know how to run their business in the United States, all the legal aspects. So Start Me covers all that. And it is a 10 weeks program, virtual this year, and we only do once a year. So the application is open right now. So if you know, or if you are an entrepreneur who is wanting to connect with, have a network of like-minded entrepreneurs and wanting to learn about business, you should definitely check out startmeatl.org and apply for the program. The deadline for this application is also October 5th, just like the voters registration. So do not delay and apply today. And if you have any question, you can go on our website and connect with one of the coordinators, and we will definitely get you more information. And thank you for having me. And this is an amazing event that you guys are doing, and it's very, very commendable.
Yeah, I don't want to miss this opportunity, Shushma, to stress also about Start Me, because I, for one, I am an alumni, and
Yes.
I can attest to that. Start Me is a great program. There's so many tremendous and knowledgeable professionals, coming from all walks of lives, and just kind of pouring all their knowledge to the Start Me participants. So we have businesses, people who have been in the business world for such a long time. We have experts from the banking finance. We have people who are lawyers. So I actually learned a lot in Start Me, just like the business side of it. So I really encourage you out there, if you're looking at starting a business, or you just have a great idea, reach out, do the application. Start Me will help you get off the ground, and just like, you can start your business and really succeed. So thank you, Sushma, for sharing a little bit about that. And I know, like, we did not get a chance to talk about Snuff World. I
That's
know that
fine.
is.
I am I'm also an alumni of Start Me, and I have this Sunopod, and Mo is our mentor. So we are a Start Me team here today.
Yes, we love Start Me
it's,
and amazing work Start Me does, to getting all helping out women and empowering them, and just not women, but men as well in the community. So,
yeah,
our thank you so much again. And our goal is to help our immigrant friends and new Americans to know how to go and vote, and making sure that you are exercising the right to vote. And that's what it's all about. Democracy. It's about that democratic right that you need to really take a responsibility for, because let's not take it for granted. Let's find
yes,
yes, it's a
yeah.
responsibility, and we need to go out and vote. Thank you again from the Arama Studios, from all of us. And that's it. See you guys again next week at 4 o'clock. We will have another community leader from Clarkston talking and telling us more about new Americans and how we can help them to go out there and vote.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.